I'm going to quick introduce myself and then walk you through some content. My goal is to make this like not a presentation. There's 7 of us, 8 of us, 10 of us, 15 of us sitting in a room. If you feel like coming off mute, interrupt me at any point. Come off camera if you feel comfortable. I'm mindful you might be doing work in the other direction, but it's a conversation more than a presentation. So interrupt me and we'll take it as we get it. Quick introduction. My name is Ari. I'm a product marketing manager, principal marketing manager at HubSpot. My email is here should you have questions or ideas. I joined HubSpot in 2012. I've been in a few different roles, 10 years at HubSpot, which means that one of our perks at HubSpot is every 5 years we get a month-long sabbatical. So I'm actually approaching my second sabbatical, lucky to have that coming up. And I'm open to the suggestion box. Anybody who has ideas where I should go for my sabbatical, I'm open to it. Would love your ideas. A little more about me, fun facts about me. I grew up in Vermont in the United States. In Vermont, we invented Ben & Jerry's, so I am addicted to ice cream, as many people in my state are. I'm a hiker. I hiked all the peaks in New Hampshire, which is the state that I moved to as I grew older. Married my wife, Jenna, at City Hall in Boston just before the pandemic hit in early 2019, after which we actually moved to Ireland for 2 years. Spent 2 years working at the Dublin office for HubSpot. Had an amazing time over there. And since then, I came back and I've actually been working from the Pacific Northwest in the United States ever since. So I'm currently in sunny and a little bit cold Ogden, Utah, in mountain time. So a lot of different things happening here, but longtime HubSpotter with a lot of different knowledge and specifically specializing in Operations Hub today. And excited to talk about it. So want to get the chat flowing a little bit. Feel free to come off mute or also just leave it in the chat as we go. Want to learn a little bit more about you all. We got where you're based. Can folks respond? Is this your first HubSpot user group? Have you been here before? Respond in the chat.
Yeah, so this is the first time, yeah.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Usman. Who else? Anyone else? Anybody a seasoned vet? Oh, Pebla, am I pronouncing that right? Said first time as well. Christine, second one. Pebla, thank you. It's awesome. Beautiful name. Christine, your second one. You're a seasoned vet. Been here for a while. Vanessa, first one as well. Welcome. Nice. How about, so for some of us, it's our first user group. Jason from Pebble calling in. Welcome, Jason. Awesome. How long have folks been using HubSpot for? Feel free to respond in the chat or unmute and talk out loud. New to HubSpot? Using HubSpot at all? 3 months. Welcome, Jason. That's awesome. Hope it's been a good experience so far. 6 months for Usman. Anyone else? One more person chime in. Tanya, how long have you been using HubSpot for?
I've been using HubSpot for 6 years. And so we use it for our clients across the board. And then we also use it for ourselves because we love the tool so much.
You're a HubSpot OG. How many hubs did we have when you first joined? Did we even have hubs at that point? It was a marketing software.
It was marketing. There's marketing and sales, but I don't even think they were called hubs yet.
It's just a marketing tool with a little CRM behind it.
Yeah.
Nice. And then a question related to today's topic. Does your company have an operations team, specialized operations? What does that look like at your company? Chime in the chat or speak out loud. We have an operations team, Jason from Pebble says. All right, we'll keep moving in the interest of time. A quick agenda. I'm going to talk about Operations Hub today. First, I'm going to talk about who Operations Hub solves for and what it generally solves for. And then we're going to dive into the features. And we can spend the time as you would find it most useful. So I'm happy to jump into the product, show it to you in real life. Happy to zip through this and just get into Q&A. Chime in and tell me as we go if you're getting the right thing out of it or if you'd like to see something different, and we'll take it from there. And then, of course, time for Q&A at the end. So quickly, what Operations Hub is and who it's for. The way that I think about Operations Hub is that it's a tool that helps enable data and process at a company. And so from a high level, you want to manage data in HubSpot, you want to manage the movement of data into and out of HubSpot, and you want to manage the process around data in HubSpot. That's what Operations Hub is for. And so it's a little bit different from our other hubs in that it's not designed exactly to stand alone. It's really a supercharger, or put another way, a kind of friction reducer for the rest of the hubs. So Tanya had said earlier, it's like the kind of grease for the flywheel. One of our investors actually said it's like the lubricant for the flywheel. It makes everything smooth everywhere else in HubSpot, and specifically around data and around process. Who is Operations Hub for? Well, it's built with ops people, data leaders, or HubSpot admins in mind. But it's also built, a lot of companies don't have specialized ops. It's something that shows up kind of later on in the life cycle of a company. Often there's just a HubSpot person. They're asked to build, connect, fix everything for their company within HubSpot. And Operations Hub is built for that person too. Ops isn't always a defined role. It's this underlying set of systems and processes of responsibilities that every business needs to fight friction and to grow better as they scale. So I think it's a funny kind of a name where it's Operations Hub. Listen up through all these tools, even if you're not working specifically in operations, because I think these tools solve problems that every business has. So at a high level, what are those problems? What are those areas that we think of for Operations Hub and for operations people? Platform, process, perspective. If you've worked with HubSpot for long enough, you know that we like alliteration. Our founder and former CEO, Brian Halligan, always have some kind of funky alliterative thing. 3 Ps: platform, process, perspective. Platform is all about connecting data. How do you get all the data into one place and usable for everyone? Process is about getting that data in front of the right people in the right ways at the right time. And then perspective is the reporting piece of it. How do you use that data in a productive way to drive business strategy and to pull insight for your team? Those 3 Ps are often really hard to manage, and then the people that own them are underappreciated. So the people, whether it's an ops person, the HubSpot admin, the HubSpot guy, whatever you end up calling it, they're underappreciated, undervalued for the value that they bring to a company and reducing friction for everybody else. And so what we want to do with Operations Hub is move from this world of operations being an afterthought, being kind of a reactive thing where that HubSpot person, that operations person is just taking orders and doing one-off tasks all day, to a world where ops is a strategic driver of business strategy. They can be really proactive. A lot of that cruft, that kind of busy work is taken out of the way by HubSpot or by whatever the CRM is that they use, and that they can be freed up to be a real kind of customer experience driver and a strategist. So sometimes we call that RevOps. Some people call it something different, customer experience ops, whatever it is. But this idea that operations is a core piece to a successful company in today's world is at the center of why we launched Operations Hub. So Operations Hub can help with that. And I'm going to walk through the features from a high level from there. So we rooted the features of Operations Hub in the 3 Ps. The job that's invisible unless it's going poorly. Yeah, that's so true, Tanya. It's like you get the blame when something goes wrong, but you rarely get the credit when things go right. I feel that also as a marketer, but we'll save that for another day. Operations Hub. So we have these 3 Ps: platform, process, perspective, and that's where our features are rooted for Operations Hub. Platform, process, perspective. We're going to walk through each one of those individually. We're going to start with platform. The features in Operations Hub rooted in platform are integrations. We have over 100 integrations that help align teams and eliminate data silos. And the story behind this, before reading through the slide, is that 2 years ago, HubSpot bought an industry-leading integration company called PieSync. PieSync is the industry leader. They are up there with the Zapiers of the world. They're actually the G2 leader in the integration platform category. So we bought PieSync, pulled their team over into HubSpot, and like we tend to do with acquisitions like that, we were really thoughtful about the way we incorporated their technology and their team into HubSpot. So over the last 2.5 years, we built their functionality. We haven't bolted it on. We built it natively into HubSpot. So their engine, their industry-leading integration engine, now powers our out-of-the-box native integrations. So we have over 100 of these. When we launched back in April, we actually only had, I think, 20 or 25 of these new integrations that are powered by the former PieSync engine. We've been building lightning fast. Now we're up past 100. And what makes these integrations different from your traditional integration is that they are 2 ways. They're bidirectional. Most integrations just pass information one way. They're customizable, whereas most integrations are just, one size fits all. They're real time, whereas most integrations like have a delay built in, or they have to have a certain trigger that makes them go. And they're historical. So data sync can be used to pull in information even from a past time, from a past CRM system, into HubSpot. Yeah. Carly's used it so far. Thanks for asking the question, Nick. Great question. I'll go one more slide, and then I actually have a question to pull the crowd on as well. Some use cases here. If you need to plug things into HubSpot, you have a bunch of apps in your ecosystem. If you're starting with HubSpot, we had folks say 3 months, 6 months. Some folks haven't started at all. Data sync is a great way, actually, as opposed to a CSV export and import, to save time and bring data into HubSpot really quickly. So you can bring contacts and companies and deals from your previous marketing system, from your CRM. We sync with Dynamics and Zoho and a number of other CRMs. And no need to build an integration from scratch. So oftentimes we would see, oh, Jason, that's awesome. Use data sync to migrate from Zoho. Oftentimes you would see before data sync to integrate with something like Microsoft Dynamics, it would be a custom build. It would be in the thousands of dollars a month as a kind of recurring project to keep that up and running. With data sync, the max you'll pay for a customized integration, even with an enterprise platform like NetSuite or like Dynamics 365, is $50 a month. That's the max you would pay for that integration through Ops Hub. So you'd use this, send MQLs to Dynamics. You'd use this to sync Intercom, Zendesk, any other customer service platform with HubSpot. Xero is an example. We have a couple different kind of billing systems that can sync with HubSpot through data sync. Lots and lots of things that you can do with data sync in HubSpot. Our customers love this. We're just starting to scratch the surface of the use cases that folks can use data sync for, but so far so good. This is Benjamin from Eastridge. Syncing with 365 and saving a ton of time, saving marketing and sales a ton of time, and the manual work that it would take to sync this in a past life. Really quickly, I want to just show you where this lives. So for the folks that use HubSpot, you can find it later on. I'm going to pull this open. Folks, let me know if you can't see my screen. Okay, thumbs up. Thanks, Nick. Really quickly, I'm in my HubSpot portal now. The place that this lives is if I navigate up here into, oops, on the wrong screen, into my app marketplace. This is where all the apps live that can integrate with HubSpot. We actually just passed over 1,000 total apps. 100 of them are these new data sync HubSpot built, HubSpot supported apps that are from that former PySync engine. The way to find those is there's a section over here for data sync built by HubSpot. We're at 101. These are all built and supported by HubSpot. And I'll show you quickly what these look like. I actually set up the Google Contact sync in my own account, so you can take a look. So many Zoom windows here, gotta get them out of the way. So here's my Google Contact sync. The beauty of these is that they all look and feel exactly the same. So if you set one of them up, you know how to set everyone up. The way it works from a high level is that you sync objects at a time. So I've set up the contact sync from Google Contacts. We support the company sync. We support the deal sync as well. If I go in here and take a look at those settings, it's really straightforward. I can sync one way. I can sync two ways. I decide on each side of the integration which contacts or which companies or which deals I want to sync. So in this case, I just have a label in Google Contacts for awesome people. I only want the awesome people to sync to HubSpot. In HubSpot, I could filter by a list if I wanted to, a certain segment that I want to make it to Google Contacts. This might be like, a kind of field sales use case where somebody is working off their phone with their CRM contacts and they want to keep them up to date, but maybe they only want their SQLs or their open opportunities to sync over to Google Contacts. I could set that up, turn on the bidirectional sync. And then the second piece is just mapping fields. So anything that I want to get from one system to the other, first name, last name, company, I can create custom mappings here for the custom fields that I create. Once I do that, I can review, I can save, and then I sync. So that's the high level. You can play around with it. This is a free tool. Data sync integrations, all 100 of them are free. There is an upgrade up to the $50 tier as you're integrating more custom things like custom fields, creating custom mappings for existing fields. $50 is the max you would pay, but out of the box, just to get contacts companies deals from system to system, totally free. So I want to pause there because I've been talking for too long. I would love to hear a question in the chat. What's at the top of your integration wish list? And I guess I would extend that question to include Nick's question as well. For those folks who have used DataSync so far, how's it been going so far? Jason mentioned he'd migrated from Zoho. What's the experience been like? What's the feedback you have? What's on your wish list too? I'll pause here. Feel free to chime in as well, unmute, shout at me, ask questions, put it in the chat. We'll take it from there. Jason says the sync from Zoho is easy. Did you pull over contacts, companies, deals, everything, Jason, or just contacts? Nice. And is it something you're keeping going, continuing moving forward, or did you ditch Zoho and now it's fully, everything is in HubSpot? Ditch Zoho, right.
We've had several requests for people moving from Salesforce, and it's been really awesome for that too, to pull over a lot of that legacy information.
Nice. Good answer, says Nick. Yeah. The nice thing about DataSync is a lot of folks use it to pull information and ditch other systems. A lot of folks use it to have HubSpot live nicely alongside other systems. So the goal at HubSpot is not to, replace everything that exists. It's to replace what makes sense and to live really nicely alongside other things. Anything else? Anyone else have the integration that they always wished HubSpot would build that we haven't yet? Now's your chance with 2 products people on the line. Tanya, I feel like you probably have something swimming in the back of your mind there. Anything on your wish list? Yeah.
I'll send it over after.
There we go.
Actually, HubSpot's been really good about, if it's not natively built, we can do it with an API. So it's, we have synced, events from Tessitura, we've synced NetSuite, invoicing, we've synced all kinds of things. It's pretty much, if you want to achieve it, first work out the business case. Like, why are you really doing this? Don't just jump in and sync everything just for fun. But I'm a fangirl of this product. So we've had a lot of fun syncing data.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. I feel like maybe the way we've grown the most after 6 years of, your working with HubSpot is extensibility, the data portability, like our API coverage and our integrations. You probably joined, we had 100 of these and now we're over 1,000 total integrations. It's a pretty awesome to be a part of. What else? We wish for an inventory management from HubSpot or integrate with another inventory management tool. That's great feedback. If there's one you have in mind, +1 says Usman. Send that our way. We plugged into the product teams that build this stuff, and we can influence them on your behalf. What else? Pause one more moment here. I see someone just came off camera as well. Did you want to jump in with a question or an idea? No. All right. Keep those questions coming, and we'll move forward. Process. That's the second P. The first P was platform, connecting data, data sync. Process is the second P. All about building advanced business process inside of HubSpot. So with Marketing Hub, you might build your marketing automation, your drip campaigns, some light data management. In Operations Hub, we really blow the cover off of what's possible with automation and workflows in HubSpot. I'll walk you through what that looks like. The biggest piece here, and I think the most flexible and exciting improvement I've seen in HubSpot in a while, is what we call custom code actions. So at a high level, the idea here is when you build a workflow and automation in HubSpot, you pick from a select menu of Lego blocks, as I like to call them. You can send an email, you can create an ad, you can update a contact property, whatever it is. Anything outside of that, you've been kind of out of luck in the past. With custom code actions, you can now build your own custom Lego blocks to do really anything that you want. We'll talk about use cases in a second, but just a few lines of JavaScript, just a few lines of Python, and you can really solve for almost anything that a standard workflow can. Some use cases here. Seen a lot of data management. So automating the process of deleting records when a certain criteria is met, of deduplicating, merging records, of associating objects is a big one. So making sure that, when a deal comes in, you create the right line items, you associate them. Maybe when a renewal, a deal comes in, you create a renewal deal and associate that with the original deal, update some line items, update the discount, update the owner. a kind of data management thing, just to make sure all the CRM records are talking to each other in the right way. With just a few lines of code and an API call or two, you can make that happen. Data enrichment here is another one. We've seen folks pull from a lot of third-party databases. That worked with one customer who hit the Zillow APIs. They were a moving company, and they wanted to pull, when a form submission came in, they wanted to ping Zillow for more information about the address and the areas that they were interested in. So they pinged Zillow. I think they actually populated a custom object or a HubDB table with information from Zillow about the houses and the areas. We've seen this used for Clearbit enrichment or ZoomInfo enrichment, data enrichment of any kind. This custom code action within a workflow allows you to ping third-party systems from within HubSpot based on HubSpot triggers. And I borrowed these all from our new automation use case library. So I'll drop this into the chat. This page is really handy if you want to experiment with this, if you or someone on your team likes hacking around with Python and JavaScript, whatever it is. Check this out. A lot of really cool stuff. There are actually code samples behind each of these. So if you know just enough to be dangerous like me, you can go in and explore the actual code, play around with it, hack around with it, and make it work for your particular use case. So that's the use case library. My favorite one of these that's come up in the last few months is somebody automated when a high value ticket came in, like a ticket from a really important customer, support ticket. They had a light bulb, a smart light bulb that was over their support desk at their physical office. And they automated it to like flash red when the high value support ticket came in. So if the reps were on lunch or whatever it was, they would see the light go off, they would come back and they would take that ticket. So I've seen Spotify automated. Somebody was trying to automate a pizza delivery when a deal closed, like through some kind of Domino's API. But really the world is our oyster here, so to speak, in terms of what's possible to automate from within HubSpot. And check out that use case library if you're looking for some inspiration. What we're hearing from customers, this is a quote from Connor, who's another partner. Programmable automation, custom code actions make HubSpot infinitely flexible. Use it to build even the most advanced business process, from integrations to data enrichment. Exactly what I was saying before. One thing we realized is that writing code is not all of our specialty. I'm not a coder myself. I recognize what's possible and I appreciate it. It's not for me. But use the resources here. We have a use case library that I just pulled up and passed out the link. We have dedicated blocks from our services team for folks who are interested in potentially filling out some of these use cases. We have HubSpot partners like Tanya, like Connor. We have each other for folks who are interested in connecting with each other. Maybe there's somebody in the room who likes to hack around with code and we can learn from each other. So there's help available for this kind of thing. And as we build out more of these, there will only be more resources for you to get started. That's one piece, the custom code actions. That's the part of that second P process. Second piece there is what we call scheduled workflow triggers. The idea here is that automations that you build in HubSpot usually trigger, like the way that they start is based on some preset criteria. So if somebody named Tanya comes in and fills out a form, that's going to set off the workflow. Or if a property updates, that's going to set off the workflow. There's never been a way to make it so it just goes without the criteria, but at a specific time. And that's what's now possible with these recurring workflows. So you can set it up for the first of the month, the first of the quarter, second month of each year, whatever it is, and the kind of recurring sequence to do a lot of those, mostly internal process things within workflows. And you can see what that looks like over on the right-hand side. So the use cases we've seen here, task creation. A services team might use this to create tasks at the beginning of every month just to check in on their red flag customers or their high value customers to make sure that they're following up. You might remind the sales team to, push at the end of a month to either close their deals or push their deals to the following month with that kind of a recurring task. We've seen this used for email newsletters as well. If you don't want to have to schedule a new newsletter every month, but maybe you have a newsletter like a real estate or a retail newsletter that just pulls from a database, like to give recommendations every month, and it does the same thing, but it just sends on a recurring basis. You could use this new feature, scheduled workflow triggers, for that. Custom integrations, you want to ping a third-party system every day. Maybe you want to ping a copy of your HubSpot data into a data warehouse, and you want to do that once a day. You could do that. and then data cleanup as well, which we'll talk about next. Right. The last piece here of that process, that second P, is data quality automation. So this is one more action in workflows. We have the custom code action. We have this data quality action that formats data. So dirty data, we've all seen stats about dirty data costing, I think, $15 million per enterprise company was the one I saw most recently. But for those of us who work heavily in HubSpot or in the CRM of choice, we just know that it's a pain in the butt to deal with dirty data. So we're trying to help with that little by little. We added this new action that helps format data automatically. I'll show it to you in just a second so you can see. But from a high level, you can format strings. So that could be capitalizing first and last names. You can format dates if you want to just make sure that dates match between, Europe and North America. We have different formats for dates. You can make those consistent. You can add and subtract time. You can do simple arithmetic, and a bunch more. So I'm going to show you really quickly the three pieces together of the second P, this process piece inside of HubSpot, just so you can get a sense of what it looks like. So I'm within workflows here. So for folks who are new to HubSpot, workflows is our automation tool, marketing automation, but also just business process automation. You can automate almost anything from here. All I've done is I've created a new workflow where the if statement, the thing that triggers it, that enrolls people into it, is that a contact comes into the system and we know their first name, and we know their last name. Right. So that's what's going to enroll them into this. But I'm only going to use it every Friday at 9 p.m. So this is a data cleanup workflow. It's going to pull that set of contacts at 9 p.m. every week. So on a recurring basis. That's this new feature, scheduled trigger, that we called it. And then so what I'm going to do here is every Friday night at 9 p.m., I'm going to go through with those folks who have a first name or a last name in the system. And here's that data quality automation piece. Oh, I'm in the wrong portal. I don't have access to edit this specifically, but you get the idea. It's a format data action. First name, we're going to capitalize it. And then all we do is we copy that value back into the first name property. So take the first name property, we capitalize the first letter of what's in there, and we copy it as a string back into the first name property. So the result is that if RE capital lowercase a comes in, then RE capital A gets input back into the property. And then we do the same thing with last name. We capitalize the last name, and we copy that back into the last name property. So the result of this workflow is every Friday night at 9, we take all the leads who have come in who have either a first name or last name, and we capitalize their first and last name. That's going to save us time. It's going to make our personalization a lot better. So when we send emails, it's like, hey, RE capital A. It's not yelling at me, and it's also not lowercasing my name, even if I filled that out on a form. And this is a big time saver, and it's a big improvement for the customer experience as well. Immediate unsubscribe if I ever get a marketing email address to Nick. Yeah, spot on. I don't know which is worse, all lowercase or when they do all uppercase and it's like, hey, Nick. It's like they're screaming at you. Or the dreaded, hey, first name. That's the worst. If you don't care about grammar, do you care about customers? Yeah, preach, Nick. Good question. Nice. All right, quick question in the chat. What's one process you've always wanted to automate? It's another wish list question. There's something you're like, man, I wish I could automate that thing. The other way to frame this is like, what's the manual task in your CRM that you spend the most time on in a given week that you would just rather not?
For us, onboarding customers, there's so much customer data that we should be updating in our CRM, but often we don't. We're just like, whoop, closed one, done.
Yeah. Do you have like a way to, I don't know.
We could build it out, but
you could build it out. I was going to say.
We haven't, but building that automation where when it moves from, that deal moves to closed one, updating their contact records, linking all the things, syncing it with ClickUp that we use for our task management so that you can easily reference all the other tools, having the Google Drive links put in. Like there's so many things that we could do with those contact records, but.
Yep. Yeah, we've seen, I think it's a great use for automation in HubSpot in general, but also probably for the custom coded stuff here. If there's integrations that don't exist or there's associations that need making. I saw somebody use it the other day, like for in a similar vein, to kick off trials. Like when somebody fills out a form in HubSpot to start a trial, they use that custom coded action to trigger a ping to a system that starts the trial, and then it sends the email that gets people into the trial and working. So that's the kind of thing. It's such an important thing and to smooth out the customer experience, but it's often kind of an afterthought. So yeah, onboarding is a great one. Anyone else? Any automation wish list here? Who's got one? All right. We'll move to the last P. Let you off the hook on that one. Last P is perspective. That's an operations hub, all about supercharging reporting. So if you use HubSpot for reporting, this makes it even more robust and even easier for everybody at the company. And the key feature here is what we call data sets. Data sets are reusable tables, and they enable two really, really cool things. The first is calculations in reporting. So we have calculations in CRM. You can create a property in the CRM, but it's not always necessary to create a property in the CRM. Often it's just a one-off calculation you want to do. You don't want to bog down your CRM records and annoy your sales reps. You just want to calculate something in reporting. So datasets enables calculations in reporting. And it also importantly enables what I call curation. Makes it easy for the average user to build reports. So the idea here is, this is the way I like to visualize it. The way we run reports in HubSpot is that we have data in our CRM and we build reports off of that data. Often, before data sets, we would start from scratch. We would start with all our raw CRM data, no jumping off point. We would have to pick our fields. We would have to pick our objects. For a lot of us, like me, I'm a marketer. I'm not the greatest at data manipulation and object choosing and all this kind of thing. The idea with data sets is that now we can create a reusable table where instead of starting from scratch, everyone at the company, no matter what team they're on, can start from a curated list of the data that they actually need. And so I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. So data sets, again, talking about preparation of data for reporting, used for custom KPIs, things like commissions, margins, anything where you need to multiply or divide something in a report. We can now do that. For custom date reporting, so there's a function that I'll show you in just a second where you can add and subtract dates. Think like the length of time somebody spends in a certain stage, ticket stage or life cycle stage. Maybe for a marketer, the amount of time it takes to get from the create date to the MQL date. You want to track how long that takes on average over time to convert somebody into an MQL. So any kind of custom date reporting like that. And then also some lightweight data manipulation things like merging, truncating, concatenating text. Think about this data set almost like in Excel within HubSpot, like the functions you're used to within Excel in terms of preparing things for reporting now live largely in data sets within HubSpot. Tanya has a question. Go for it.
I do. We actually hit a roadblock before using calculated properties because we wanted to calculate based on several properties, but not all of them would have data entered. So the calculated property wouldn't work because it had to have values in all of the properties used to calculate that. Would this solve for that?
I think that it would. Nick, you can jump in as well. What I'm thinking about is, what about the if function, Nick? What do you think?
I'm actually not sure. I can follow up though. Let me Slack somebody and get us an answer here.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can play around with it. Tanya, what I'm thinking about is we just released an if function, like there is in Excel, where it's kind of like, if this property is equal to this value, then output this. And so I almost think you could say if there's a null within this property, run this calculation instead or output this other thing instead. But yeah, let's follow up because I'm curious about that as well. It's a good question.
Thanks.
So this is my day, the benefit that I get in our own HubSpot portal in 53. That's our HubSpot ID from data sets. So before, when I would create a report, I would see 812 properties. This is a real screenshot. They actually look like this. There's a bunch of do not use and RPG only. I didn't create these. I don't know what they are. the names are a bit confusing. And there's some missing context because there's no calculated properties. And then after the fact, the properties that I start with when creating my reports are the only ones that I need. So it's 3 properties. They all have cool names that I understand. There's even a calculation in there. In this case, we converted ARR to MRR with a quick calculation. And now I, as a go-to-market team member, a marketer, sales rep, whatever, can create a report super easily. It's fast, it's easy, and it's even more robust. And that's me as a happy emoji in the upper right. I'm just going to show you again a quick demo of where this lives, if only so that you can play around with it yourselves later on. And Tanya, we can get together and hack around with it too. Where this lives in HubSpot is, if we come under reports, I'm actually going to show you from the reporting angle first, and then we can build the data set together. So the idea within reports, if you come into reports and then into the reports screen here, and you want to create a custom report, you want to create from the custom builder, that's where we create our custom reports. This is what you would go through. So the process would be like, you have to pick your data sources, you have to create, all your fields. You end up, remember, starting from scratch, having to go through all the different fields that might exist. The alternative is, instead of starting from scratch, you can start from a data set. So I just clicked over to the tab in the upper right here where I'm starting from data set. That's my jumping off point. That's this reusable table that my ops team created or that I created that only includes the things that are most relevant to me. And so it looks like this instead. So now if I wanted to, create a chart of MRR over time by, MRR over time, and I maybe wanted to break it down by industry. See if we have data in this portal. Yep, we do. So this is my report of MRR over time by industry. I didn't have to do any searching. I didn't have to do any weird understanding of property names that didn't make sense to me in the past. I only have the properties that are interesting to me, and that includes this calculation of MRR and ARR. So quickly, I'm going to show you into that data set so you can take a peek under the hood. Come into reports and into data sets, target account deals. So I created this data set to identify the deals that are associated with important companies in my database. So I came in, this is what it looks like. It's pretty straightforward. So I'm selecting my fields that I want to be in that data set. You saw how that panned out when I created the report. These were the only fields that I saw. So all I did here was I moved the close date. Let's see, you can kind of see how it works. So in this case, maybe I would add amount, but in this case, I'll kind of start from scratch. Amount, maybe I would say, is MRR. And then I would create the formula field. And the way I would do that is I would make this ARR, annual recurring revenue, and maybe I would just make that MRR times 12, right? Oops, need that to be correctly. Need to use the right syntax. Right. That's it. Right. We would make that formula. These formulas, you can do really anything. So this is where that spreadsheet style, Excel style calculations come in. If you want to do date differences, if you want to do concatenation, maybe you want first and last name or the company name and the deal name to be together in your deal report. You can do truncation. Again, you can do if statements if you want to bucket and categorize data in interesting ways. This should look familiar if you've been in Excel before, because a lot of these are pulled directly from Excel. So that's the idea of data sets. It's curation of fields, so you only see the ones that you want to see, and it's also that added turbo boost of calculations in the context of reports that make a whole bunch of other things possible for the first time. All right, last question for me of the day, and I would open it up to any conversation or questions you all have about data sets specifically. Is there one calculation that you've been itching? These are all wish list questions. I don't know how we ended up there, but one calculation that you'd like to run a report on inside of HubSpot. Got to drop. Thanks, Jason, for coming. Appreciate you. Anybody with a calculation they'd like to see run within HubSpot? or a report that they'd like to see run within HubSpot that they've never been able to figure out. End-to-end, Miran, thank you for your question. Great question. End-to-end from lead to deal one. Nice. Yeah, you could actually do that within this. So the way that you would, if we can't come into that data set, that's where that date diff function would come into play. And it just returns, do you want it in days, weeks, months? And then you can input 2 date properties. So if you had, day, and then the date properties would be, the date properties that you would enter here would be whatever you want to calculate. So it could be from the deal. I don't know my syntax too well. So it would be deal, like create date to like deal close date. And so that would spit out for any given deal by the number of days or weeks or months or however you set it, the amount of time from the create date to the close date. Custom conversion rate. Ooh, these are good questions, Laura. Thank you.
I did try. If you can help, but I wasn't successful.
Yeah, good question, Laura. Thank you. Is it possible to calculate a custom conversion rate dividing the number of leads in a particular pipeline stage by the total number of leads generated in a specific month? So I think the answer, is not today, but soon. The way that these calculations work today is that I would call them like row level. So it's almost like if you're an Excel sheet and you have one row and each row is like a contact record, you can look at a bunch of different cells in that row, the create date, the close date, and so on. But you can't do calculations that aggregate across a bunch of rows or a bunch of tabs. And so the custom conversion rate is doing exactly that. It would take like the total number of leads aggregated in a particular pipeline and divide it by the total number of leads in a specific month. This can't do that yet, but later in the year it will be able to. So it's a really good question though. What else? Any other questions on calculations while we're here? On data sets?
I figured out the answer to Tanya's question about null values. It's actually the same for calculations and data sets, but I just pinged our team about that to see what's on the roadmap regarding calculations with null values in certain property fields.
So what happens if you, how does that work? What do you mean when you say it's the same?
Yeah, so what I tested is if a deal does not have a value, can I try to add $100 or something like that to the value? And the calculation doesn't run, actually. So it would be the same as a calculated CRM property. But I just reached out to our product manager to see what's on the radar for that.
I almost feel like there should be like an if null. I don't know what it is in Excel, but there's some kind of function for like if there's a value, if there's not a value versus, I think our system probably treats it differently as a 0 versus a null, and it doesn't quite know how to handle those.
If it's a numerical property, though, you could use a workflow just to set the value as 0. And then instead of a null, you actually do have a value in that property. You need to be able to run calculations in the CRM or in data sets off that. So
Tanya looks like she's thought of that.
We built for this at another time.
Yeah, I'm curious. I want to see.
Nice. All right, I think I have one more slide and then we can wrap for the day. The final piece here is for folks who are all of these pieces are about using HubSpot for better reporting. That's what data sets is for. If you do your reporting somewhere else, we're also trying to enable that easily as well. So Snowflake is a leading data warehouse where a lot of folks keep their kind of source of truth for customer data from all different systems. We built a new integration using some really awesome, fancy, secure Snowflake technology that pipes HubSpot data really quickly and securely into Snowflake. So this is not relevant unless you use Snowflake, but if you do use Snowflake, this new integration with Snowflake is super handy, super fast, and cost saving and super useful. So just to have in mind, this is called Snowflake Data Share. If you search our knowledge documentation, you can learn more about that. Last piece here is just on pricing and packaging. let's see, Tanya, what's the question? Can we use OpsHub to add in cost data for most cost-specific reporting?
So for Google Ads,
Good question.
it pulls in cost, but if we, had a paid partnership with another site, we currently have no way to really report that in HubSpot.
Yeah, I think it would, but we'd have to think about how to store that information elegantly. Yeah, Nick, do you have thoughts on that?
It depends on what is cost going to be like. What did a specific campaign cost us, or like, are there inputs that we could like for each object record, or I don't know. I would need a little bit more context.
It's a question we get a lot, and you're right that there's a lot of different variables there. But even being able to pull in a more general, like paid social cost is this, and to tie it with that, the source or another property like that.
Yeah, you could definitely set like in the data set, if you wanted to have like a cost per lead or cost per click or something like that, and use that as like an operator or as a value in other calculations. You could definitely do that just by going in and like defining that globally.
It would have to be like a constant though, right? Like
exactly.
You would run the calculation elsewhere, $1.50 cost per lead, and then input that $1.50 into the calculation. There's not really a way to like update it within the data set dynamically, is there?
No, not unless you created it as a property that lived on every contact record, which isn't like a bad solution if you wanted to have like a cost section on each contact that's like, hey, what's our current CPC and like our, spend or whatever you might want to bring into that data set in the future. You could just have that live on a record and then pull that in and it'll update dynamically in the data set.
Yeah, that's interesting. Or like even a custom object for cost.
Yeah, actually a custom object for any ad campaigns you're running that could have the details associated with that campaign, and then you just associate any companies or contacts or deals or whatever to the campaign, and that would be a really cool way to run that report. Yeah.
Nice. Tanya, it seems like we have some follow-ups with you to do some brainstorm and a hackathon together, with you and the team. All right, the last piece here, and I want to get people on their way because I'm mindful of everyone's time. We're coming towards the top of the hour. Just on packaging, platform, process, perspective, those were the 3 Ps. A platform piece, the connections, the integrations that are rooted in our former PySync tool, those are all at free and starter. So it's 100 plus new integrations. There's the custom piece of it where you're mapping custom fields between systems as the starter tier. It's $50 a month, but the integrations themselves are free. You can get started and use those for free, whether or not use HubSpot or whether or not use Operations Hub, even if you're just using Marketing Hub. The process piece, all those automation features, coded workflow actions, the data quality actions where you're, capitalizing names, the recurring triggers where you're doing recurring process. That's all at the professional tier. It starts at $800 a month. And then the reporting piece, the data sets, the calculations that happen in reports, the Snowflake integration. And then there's also some additional capacity for folks looking for more reports, more dashboards. That's at the enterprise tier. And that starts at $2,000 a month. The other thing to note here is the best deal, the best way to get Operations Hub and all the hubs is through our suite pricing. So you can get all the hubs together for a built-in discount, which actually I think it ends up being like if you're going to buy 2, 3 anyway, you might as well get all of them, and it ends up being cheaper, and you get all the great functionality of all the hubs. So that's how the pricing and packaging works. We're evolving this and we're adding to Operations Hub every day. We're about a year in, and it's the fastest evolving, most innovative product line. Although I'm biased in saying that because I work on it. And that's it for me. So I'm open to questions. If we want to take more questions, happy to let folks go if people want to move on with their day. But I want to say thank you to Tanya for hosting. Thank you to everyone for being here. I would have liked to join the Caribbean Hug at the Grand Caymans in person, but we'll have to save that for next time. And I have to say that I really enjoyed the Zoom as well. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Next time, we're going to do a session on content strategy. So keep your eye for emails. It'd be great if we could do it in person. If not, content strategy, how you can drive more leads, get people in the funnel for every stage of their buyer's journey. But yeah, if you have questions, stick around, ask some questions. If not, thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure. I'll send a wrap-up email with a video recording of this event. So if you have any other follow-up questions, you want to dive into calculated properties, hit me up. I'll bring the guys in and we'll answer all the questions for you.